Hi everybody, it's Christina from Pretty Distressed. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about upgrading that builder grade aluminum towel rack that you might have in your house and creating a new rustic farmhouse rack with items that I just have around my house or that I've used on other projects before. This is a pretty quick project that I feel like anybody could do. So if you want to learn how to create a farmhouse towel rack for your bathroom, just keep watching. If you are new here, I'm a furniture painter and refinisher, and what that means is I'm usually taking things from around my home or things that I find on the cheap or things that I DIY, and I'm making them over into new creations. I have been doing YouTube part-time for several years now, and just a couple weeks ago I have gone full-time, so there's gonna be a lot more content coming your way, so make sure you subscribe so you can check it all out. Our house is new construction, and one thing that is in need of an update is our towel racks. They're just the very inexpensive aluminum ones, and to be honest, it's really hard for my kids to hang towels up on a rack. I don't know what that's about, but it's just easier for them to be able to hang up a towel on a rack with hooks. I'm gonna be using a lot of stain and paint and top coats that I already have around my house from other projects that I've created, and I'm also using a scrap piece of wood that I had, so the only thing I really had to buy brand new were the hooks. So let me zoom you in and we'll get started. The first thing I grabbed was a scrap piece of wood. This is actually a piece of shiplap. You can use any kind of wood that you have maybe laying around the house, or you could pick up a scrap piece from a lumber yard. And if you don't have a saw, I just cut mine down to size. So I cut it a little bit bigger than my rack to 26 inches. A normal standard towel rack is going to be around 24 inches. If you don't have a saw or a table saw at home, you can always take it up to Home Depot and get it cut there. The first thing I'm going to do to prep my board is just take a medium grit sandpaper. I'm using 150, and I'm just going to sand the entire surface. Make sure that you get every area. This is just going to help get rid of any of those splintery type things and just prepare your surface for the stain we're about to use. And I want to make this look really farmhouse and old, so I'm taking a wire brush that I have, and I'm just going to rub this across the entire board just to make some scratches and gouges. So when I'm adding my paint and my stain, it's going to kind of grab in those areas and just make it look old and like it's a piece of barn wood. I'm actually going to take a hammer and a screwdriver or a nail, anything that you have, and just kind of bang it up and make it look old. I like to use a screw to kind of create little wormholes like you would see in wood naturally. And then when you're done distressing it, just wipe it off with a tack cloth or a paper towel. I am going to be using a stain that I already had on hand from another project. I'm using the General Finishes water-based antique oak. I'm going to be applying it with just a foam brush. These are cheap brushes you can get for like $1 at the hardware store, and I like using them because I can just throw them out when I'm done. But this is water-based, so it is going to have really easy cleanup. It's low odor, so you don't have to worry about using it inside, and I just find it's really easy to work with. So I'm just spreading it over the entire piece, just covering every bit of wood. Once I get my board completely covered in the stain, I'm going to take one of my lint-free rags and just wipe off any of the excess stain that's still sitting on the board. You can also use paper towels or shop towels to get this off. They just recommend not using a cotton t-shirt because that will just push the stain around instead of absorbing it. Check your can for dry time of your stain. The dry time for this particular stain is 2 hours. So after it dried for 2 hours, it was pulling a little orange for my taste. So I'm adding some Dixie Belle Voodoo Gel in denim. The blue is gonna kind of counteract that orange and just add some depth to my board. This isn't necessary, you don't have to do this, but I like to just play around with stuff that I have, and I had this on hand, so I'm using it to kind of tone down that orange. And I'm just using another one of those lint-free cloths to kind of rub this in the spots that I felt needed it. Next, I'm going to take the Voodoo Gel Stain in White Magic, and I'm going to add a whitewash to this board. I'm going to use this a lot more generously than I use the denim color, and I'm going to spread it all over with a foam brush just because I want this board completely covered in this. And before it sets, before it dries too quickly, when I immediately go in with another lint-free clean cloth, and I'm just gonna rub this back until I get the desired effect. I'm gonna wipe off just as much as I can. As you can see, it doesn't come off just like right away, so I just had to keep working with it and playing with it until it was where I wanted it to be. This is water-based, so it will dry pretty quickly. I would let it dry for an hour or two before you top coat. So I'm ready to seal this, and you can seal it any way you want. I was originally planning on using this high performance flat from General Finishes, but I wanted to add just a little bit more color to this. So I'm gonna be using the Dixie Belle wax in grunge gray. I've used this before on my nightstand makeovers. If you have not seen that video, I will link it up above. But I love this stuff because it seals the piece and adds the depth of the gray all at the same time, which is really great for adding that barnwood aged look. Again, I'm using the same lint-free cloth to apply this. These are reusable, by the way, so you can wash them and reuse them again. I know I've used a lot so far in this project, but you just apply the wax to the whole piece and then you let it set for 15 to 20 minutes. And then you come back again with a clean cloth or just a clean section of your cloth. You don't have to get a brand new one, and just wipe off and buff in any of that excess gray. And you will see that some of that comes off on my cloth here. So now we're done painting and sealing, and I'm just gonna add my hardware. And I actually grabbed the towel rack to measure the current openings, so that way I can use the screws and the anchors that are already on the wall. So I just measured those off and marked them up, and then I used the level just to make sure that it's level, so when I hang it up, it's gonna be nice and straight. These are the fasteners I'm gonna be using for my board. You can use any fastener you want. These are just some that I had on hand, so I'm using them. So I'm just drilling them into these spots that I had marked on the back of the board. So once I got my fasteners in place, I flipped it over to mark off where I want my hooks. I did put one of the hooks right in the center and then evenly spaced the other two out to the edge. And for these, I found it was a little bit easier to actually drill holes first and then put the screws in the hooks by hand, just so I didn't crack or dent the board at all. And just a little note, the screws that came with my hooks were too long for the board, so I actually had to dig through my stash and find some ones that wouldn't go all the way through the board. But I got these hooks at Home Depot, and I chose them because they are like a really farmhouse style. But again, you can use any hook that you want, but just check that screw length. You don't want it to go all the way through the board. And here I am just tightening up the last screw and the last hook. So here is the towel rack, just to remind you that I'm trying to replace. And here is the new farmhouse version that I came up with. I love how this elevates the style in the bathroom to what was there before, and it was really easy to install because I made it on my own. Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. I hope you have fun trying this project out on your own. Send me pictures of what you create. I'd love to see it. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section, and I will see you guys next time.